Welcome to Live Better Longer. I'm your host, Bill Borton. Long misunderstood and considered to be a last resort, reverse mortgages are finally becoming more widely accepted and understood. My guest, Don Graves, is president of the Housing Wealth Institute, a best-selling author and an adjunct instructor at the American College of Financial Services. He's one of the nation's leading educators on incorporating housing wealth into retirement income planning. He's also my good friend. Don, welcome to Live Better Longer.
Thank you, Bill.
Well, so Don, most people have no idea what a big part housing wealth or home equity can play in a retirement income plan. As a matter of fact, you refer to reverse mortgages as the Swiss Army knife of retirement income planning.
Sure.
I love that.
Sure.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, Bill, I've been 20 years doing reverse mortgages and educating consumers and advisors about the biggest source of wealth that most people have. They have their income in retirement, they have their investments, they have insurances, but the biggest part is their housing wealth. It encompasses for many people more than half of their retirement. And so this housing wealth, you have to do something with it if you want to really have an optimized retirement. I call it the Swiss Army knife because for all the years, and Bill, how many times have you been somewhere and someone mentions reverse mortgages and the eyebrows go up and people...
Oh, they like it about as much as they like long-term care insurance, you know?
and now some of that was earned in the early days. Reverse mortgages have been around for 31 years. So in the early days, like a lot of things, they were getting their wheels, their legs, but really the last 15 years, the program has been restructured, reshaped, and it's now optimized to meet the retirement needs. So when I talk about the Swiss Army knife of retirement income planning, what do I mean? I mean the old Swiss Army knife that my daddy left me. He was a Navy guy, and I was fascinated as a kid. We could cut the Spam and put it on the cracker, but we also could whittle, and we can open a Pepsi bottle and all of that. The reverse mortgage allows a retiree or a financial advisor who's using it many options to look at the house, turn it into cash flow, turn it into wealth preservation, turn it into liquidity. There are all types of ways. There are 31 different types of ways to use a reverse mortgage.
You've come up with that many?
I've come up with 31.
That's like even more flavors than Baskin-Robbins.
Yeah,
you know?
well, it's exactly the number of flavors is that, and the number of days in a month. So that's why I call it the Swiss Army knife, because once you begin to understand what it is, and you move away from kind of the, I won't call it misperceptions, bias, or things that probably need to be updated. Let's say that. Then a whole new world emerges.
So Don, what are the real basics around it? I mean, what do you need to know whether you qualify or not, without going into too much detail?
Sure. A reverse mortgage, Bill, is 4 words. It's just a mortgage. And once people get beyond that, it's not spooky, it's not evil, it's just a mortgage. But it's been around since 1988, so 31 years. It's a mortgage that allows retirees age 62 years or older to convert a portion of their home's value and turn it into tax-free money without giving up ownership of the home, without coming off of title, and without having to make any types of monthly mortgage payments. The amount of money your viewer can get is based off of 3 things: the age of the oldest borrower, the value of the home, and the current interest rate. So a reverse mortgage finally gets repaid when the last surviving borrower permanently departs the house, moves or deceases. At that time, whatever money was advanced to them, plus any interest that accrues, gets repaid. And here's what's important: 100% of any remaining equity will pass on to them if they move, or their heirs or their estate. So a reverse mortgage is simply a way to leverage your home in retirement to create some of the outcomes or things you desire for a sustainable retirement.
Now, if something doesn't go right with any of this in the long run, this is what's called a non-recourse loan, though, right?
That's correct.
I mean, if there's more owed at the end of the line, either the borrower or their heirs can't be hit up for that, right?
That's correct. Mrs. Montini lived in South Philadelphia, and she had a $200,000 home, and her husband died. They had a mortgage on the property of $100,000, and they were paying $1,000 a month. Now, after her husband died, that was a hardship. So she said, maybe I can look into a reverse mortgage, which she did. The reverse mortgage made enough money available to pay off the $100,000 that she owed. So now she can save that monthly income every month. Now your question was, okay, Don, now she owes you around $100,000, right? I said, yeah. What if she lives to be 110? The amount of money she owes has grown, but what if her home didn't grow? So now when she dies at 110 years of age, what if she owes more than the home is worth? What happens? Well, that's what happened in 1988 when the Federal Housing Administration began to oversee this program. It's called a non-recourse loan, which means if somehow in the future you owe more than your home is worth when you die or move, the lender can only recover the net proceeds from the sale of the house. No deficiency judgment will be taken against you, your heirs, or your estate. So you're protected in all cases because FHA will make up the difference and make the lender whole. So you're always protected.
Okay, so now, getting back to more specifically to some of these 31 ways that you can use this. Just off the top of my head, I know that you can use that tax-free income to supplement retirement until you can qualify for Social Security a little bit further down the line. If you think you might live a long life, you can use it to pay for health insurance until you go on to Medicare.
Sure.
You can pay long-term care insurance premiums. You can draw income from there if the market's down and you want to avoid sequence of returns risk.
Sure.
You can even use a reverse mortgage to buy a home, right?
Absolutely. Many people don't know that, but absolutely.
Yeah, I found that out from you, and you recall that you helped my wife and I
do.
with that. So I had no idea, but now I do, and I want to thank you for that.
Well, my pleasure. Bill, can we talk about that for a moment?
Sure.
That you personally, your financial advisor, you're a well-educated person, well-researched. Many people will hear that and say, wait a minute. That guy did a reverse mortgage. He did a reverse mortgage for purchase, which is a different type of reverse mortgage, one of the 4 that exist in America today. But you used a reverse mortgage to buy a home, you and your wife. Why?
Well, the primary reason was I had downsized previously. We were trying to figure out where we really wanted to be, so we'd been renting for a while. And I knew that I didn't want to go into a long-term retirement, whatever that means for me, with a big mortgage payment. And I had the money to put down to buy the house, but I didn't want to tie it all up.
Sure.
And so I was able to use a portion of the purchase price with the reverse mortgage.
And you freed up the money. Now you didn't have to use all of your savings or all of the proceeds from whatever your last house was. So you freed up that money to have a more sustainable retirement versus locking it up into brick and mortar.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, which made tremendous sense to me. And also, one of the things I didn't know, but I know you told me about it, and Wade Fowle from the American College has written about it, you can actually put money towards the reverse mortgage that we got to make sure that the house will always have a lot of equity in it, so that later on in life, if we want to go to a continuing care retirement community, then we will know that we will have sufficient funds for the entrance fee.
Sure.
Because we can manage the mortgage balance.
Right. And that's part of the Swiss Army knife, that versatility. So you chose the HECM for purchase, or the reverse for purchase, which came around in 2009 after the recession. It allows retirees to buy their next home for about 50 to 60% down and have no monthly mortgage payments, which means you could buy a house that's $500,000 and your down payment may be $300,000 or $330,000 or something like that. And so there are many people who don't understand, well, Don, wait a minute. You mean I can buy a house more expensive than I have now, or the same value, or even downsize? Sure. 50 to 60% down, have no monthly mortgage payments. So that means you don't have to take out a mortgage, you don't have to pull money out of your savings, you don't even have to use all of the proceeds of your previous home necessarily once you understand it. There are 5 ways to kind of structure the HECM for purchase, and you use one of them. And that, so what you're saying now is, hey Don, even once you get into a reverse mortgage, any reverse mortgage, if you want to make payments to kind of manage the equity, you can do that. Or you can take the payments that you would have used and done something else with it. It's really one of the most flexible and versatile tools in the United States today.
And until I met you, I had no idea. And I am so glad, because this has ended up being a really good thing for my wife and me.
Well, thanks for being kind.
Yeah, well, it's been wonderful. So Don, I know that you are really big into education,
Yes, sir.
and you're very passionate about helping both financial advisors and consumers learn more about how they can access this housing wealth.
Yeah.
You've written a couple books. I think last year around this time you published a book called Housing Wealth that was designed for financial advisors.
That's correct.
And I think we have an image of it right there, okay? And so then more recently, in fact, it was just this month, you released a book for consumers. Now, why did you write the book for consumers? What happened that caused that?
Sure. I wrote the book for consumers. I wrote the book for advisors, Housing Wealth and Advisor's Guide, because many advisors says, Don, I'm understanding reverse mortgages, but I've got some conceptions or perceptions, and I'm seeing it as I'm reading the news, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, I'm hearing it in different places by people I respect, but I don't know enough about it practically to incorporate it into my language or conversation. So I wrote a book, Kentucky style, for the advisors to say, now I understand how this works.
Right.
As a matter of fact, someone I was having a meeting with, I called you a fellow named Ed Slott. I said, Bill, I've got a chance to meet this guy. He's interested in my book. What do you think? And you were so helpful to me. Well, Ed got excited. He now offers the book on his PBS specials. And I guess I have you to thank for that, because you helped me to understand and, a lot of that.
Yeah, Ed Slott's the IRA guy. You know, he's got certified advisors all over the country that he supports. He's very widely known and read. And so for him to embrace you and what you're doing is really good.
Well, it was actually after he read my advisor book, he said, Don, do you have this and a smaller version for consumers? I said, Ed, I've been working on one for 6 months. He says, well, can you finish it by April 1st so we can share with our PBS audience? So,
do we have an image of that book for the consumer book, The Boomer's Guide? There it is. Yeah. Quite a great cover on there, too, Don.
It's a fun cover. It's lighthearted, but it's very serious. So it just takes the principles and it shares it in ways that the reader, the consumer, can walk through this. It's small, but it's packed with peanuts, and it's going to give you a tremendous overview, and all of the 31 strategies that we talked about are in that book.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to go to a commercial break now, Don, and when we come back, I want to talk to you a little bit more about some of the ways that you're helping to educate people.
Great,
okay?
Bill. Thanks.
This is Bill Borton. We'll be right back with more Live Better Longer after a word from our sponsors.
Shelter dogs aren't broken. They've simply experienced more life. If they were human, we would call them wise. They would be the ones with tales to tell and stories to write. The ones dealt a bad hand who responded with courage. Do not pity a shelter dog. Adopt one.
Say we've got grit, and we'll take it as a compliment. Because it's our uncommon drive, our spark within, that brings us together and sets us apart. We are temple made. And when others take shortcuts, when others take breaks, when others take the easy way, we take charge.
I work 13 hours a day, 6 days a week. So when I'm off the clock, I gotta get stuff done. So when I need a snack, I need something healthy, tasty, and easy to eat. Like wonderful pistachios without the shells. They're protein-powered, delicious, and great on the go. And that's perfect for me. Thanks, Liz. A woman without a lot of time.
Whether you're a gourmet cook or just want to eat like one, visit Rostelli Market Fresh, your home for the freshest, locally sourced ingredients to please everyone who loves great food. Our organic meats, quality seafood, and free-range poultry are cut fresh to order. Chefs create culinary-inspired prep foods made fresh every day, which pair nicely with our vast selection of fine wines and spirits. Choose from handmade pastas, artisan cheeses, organic produce, and grocery items, all from the finest purveyors. Rostelli Market Fresh, from our family.
Welcome back to Live Better Longer. I'm your host, Bill Borton, here with my good friend Don Graves. So Don, Before the break, we were talking about the books that you've written to help educate advisors and consumers. Right. But you've also created some online course materials. I know a while back you produced a consumer version of the course for the American College of Financial Services, correct?
Yes.
And I think we have a slide for that particular course, the client course here. Tell us briefly about that.
Well, you know, Bill, many people have seen commercials, famous actors, and they're talking about reverse mortgages, and that's fine. And they may send you a DVD and all of that gives you basic information. What we discovered, and what I discovered as I was teaching at the American College, was that what consumers were asking for is there an educational program, a resource that no one's selling anything, you're not going to get my phone number, you're not going to bombard. Is there just something that goes through what it is, what it does, how it works, and cover some of the strategies? And so I was privileged to film this at the American College. I was grateful for that. And so it's just a 55-minute workshop, and I think you can see it online at housingwealthworkshop.com. No one calls you, you don't give your phone number, but a consumer can go there, and you can download the workbook, and at your own leisure and on your own time, you can spend 55 minutes understanding the 5 core strategies, the 5 foundations of the reverse mortgage, and all the different things that we've talked about in your own leisure to get the education.
Now, it's important that consumers, particularly people who are at 62 or above or getting there, that are concerned about retirement income, to really truly understand this, because as we both know, a lot of financial advisors are resistant, again, either out of bias or ignorance of reverse mortgages, and so a lot of boomers aren't getting the benefit. And so I know you're banging the drum of educating people every way you can.
Sure.
So that being said, in addition to writing the book, Housing Wealth, the Guide for Advisors, you've now created an actual certificate course.
That's right.
Which I have actually enrolled in and started, and it's great.
Oh, thank you, Bill. I really appreciate it.
So tell us about that, because I know that the advisors really need to know about this course.
Sure. Advisors are critically important. In my consumer book, I really default heavy that consumers should try to have, they're going to do better in their retirement plan if they have a written plan and someone they trust as an advisor. So I really default to extolling the virtues of having an advisor. And so what's happening is advisors, again, would say, I want to know about reverse mortgages. I'm hearing some things. I'm coming to understand that they may not be what I thought of. And when I was teaching at the American College in the Retirement Income Certified Professional designation, the RICP, I had a small segment. But there was a request made that says, can we expand on that we actually understand how this incorporates, how I identify clients who may need it, how I introduce the subject matter, and then how I pass the baton to get my client to the right people. And so we developed a course that was very practical for advisors to do those things. How does it incorporate? How do you identify the clients who need it? And how do you introduce the subject matter? And that's what the course is focused on. Because an advisor may be looking at a client in the face, and that client is saying, the advisor says, you know what, Bob and Sally, you've got this much money, you have this much you're spending in retirement. I'm not sure you're going to make it if you live past 85. Your money's going to run out, because boomers have 3 primary challenges. They've not saved enough, they're going to live longer, and they're highly indebted. So they need every resource available to them to have a sustainable retirement. Housing wealth cannot be ignored. So we developed a course to help advisors to say, you know what, I'm going to be a AAA advisor. You know what that means, Bill?
I'm about to find out, Don.
A AAA advisor means that you can look your client in the eye and say, I want to use all of your available assets, AAA, all available assets.
There you go.
I want to use your income. I want to use your insurances, including annuities. I want to use your investments, and I want to use your housing wealth. If you're an advisor and you're not using housing wealth in your conversation, you're not a AAA advisor, you're a AA or single A. But you've got to be able to say, I want to use all available assets, because that's what we would want if we went to a doctor and they said, hey, you've got something going on the inside, and you say, what are my treatment options? And the doctor says, only one option. Well, we don't want more. We want more than one. We want every available treatment plan available.
Well, see, one of the conundrums these days, Don, is that there's different versions of financial advisors that are set up regulatory-wise different ways, and some of them get commissions and some get fees. And so because no one, or not a lot of advisors really do everything well, a lot of people may be really good at investing your money, but they don't understand income planning.
Right.
And a lot of people that maybe do understand income planning may not have insurance licenses, and so they don't understand Medicare supplements and long-term care and annuities and things like that. So one of the reasons why I like working with you is, I specialize in retirement risk management and income planning. You specialize in housing wealth.
Right.
We're both working at educating advisors so that they can do a better job for their clients. Because you have to be able to incorporate Medicare planning, Social
Absolutely.
Security planning, housing wealth. All of these things need to be incorporated if, again, a boomer is going to be able to live better longer.
That's right, absolutely. And an advisor, like you said, they need a team approach, right? Just if you were a cardiothoracic surgeon and you're going into the theater there, you'd have your anesthesiologist, and you'd have, the room would be filled with people. I don't know what all those people do, but they all have a
I
specialty.
hope I never meet any of them.
I hope not either. But they all have a specialty. And so a wealth advisor needs a long-term care specialist, a Medicare specialist, a housing wealth specialist, an elder law specialist. You need a team of folk if you're going to do retirement income planning. And I'm just believe housing wealth is such an important part because I believe it's the largest single concentration of wealth in most people's total wealth package. I had a fellow say to me, well, Dom, that's not true. My client has $800,000 and he's got a $500,000 home. It's not the majority. I said, when you look at the $800,000, let's carve that up. It's stocks, bonds, annuities, ETFs, spiders, hippos, cash, and all these other things. I said, we've got to carve that up. When you look at his $500,000 house, that's just a single mass. So I said, the largest single biggest concentration of wealth is this housing wealth.
And that's tax-free money with the housing wealth,
That's
whereas
right.
a lot of that portfolio may be qualified or IRA money,
That's
which isn't really all their money. A good chunk of that's the government's money.
Absolutely
It's just
correct.
they haven't taken it yet.
And so when the advisor begins to understand, I say, well, you want to have your clients have some money that's taxable, tax-free, and tax-deferred. And I said, how are you going to convert some of this money to tax-free? And you can do that through a Roth IRA. And I wrote a case study, and it's in the book when I rewrote it, that says, let me show you how to use housing wealth to convert $400,000 or $500,000 of taxable money into tax-free retirement.
And that's huge.
It's
And I know Ed
absolutely
Slott loved that.
Well, that's what got me in front of him, because one of his advisors saw me do this almost on the back of a napkin and says, wait a minute, are you saying? And he said, Don, this is absolutely amazing. And I said, it may not be the conclusion, but it's certainly worth being part of the conversation. And that's all we ask advisors, is to say, you can't look at someone's biggest asset and ignore it and say, I don't know what to do about it, I don't know how to talk about it. You have to know how to talk about it, how to understand how it works, how to identify who may need it, and how to incorporate it into the conversation in a way that's ethical and moral and compliant with whatever your company says.
So Don, in the little bit of time we have left, I want to make sure that people know, the advisors out there that are going to be watching this, how they get to that certificate course. I think we have a slide for that, and our last image. So tell them, how do people find out about it? It's what, 3 modules as I recall?
It's no, it's about 4 hours, 8 modules,
8 modules.
24 lessons, something
Okay.
like that. But small tidbits, you can get it at housingwealthcourse.com, and that should be on the screen.
It is right now.
Housingwealthcourse.com. You go there, and if you say, well, I'm not quite sure about it, you can preview. We'll allow you to preview, I think, 4 or 5 modules. And here's our promise, that if you pay for it and you say, if it turned out to not be able to help your practice tenfold, we'll give you all your money back. We haven't had anybody do that yet.
I would be surprised if you ever did, Don.
Because it's reasonable and it's really helping the advisors, because you're sitting in front of people every day that they're sitting on their biggest asset, and this will help you to understand, what can I do with this to make their retirement what they dreamed it could be.
Don, what a way to end a great show. My friend, it's always a pleasure.
My brother, thank you so much.
You have been so helpful, and I know that our viewers are going to want to find out more about how they can access housing wealth. This is Bill Borton, thanking you for watching Live Better Longer with my guest Don Graves. I'll be back next Tuesday at 11 on RVN TV for more Live Better Longer. Thank you.